got an unstoppable story, then the Unstoppable Stories Show is looking for you. Email us at terrence@unstoppablecoaching.com to get an interview for your unstoppable story. The Unstoppable Stories Show with Terrence Leftridge. Ordinary people, unstoppable stories. And hey, it is an unstoppable day. If it's Tuesday, then you know it's another episode of the Unstoppable Stories Show with Terrence Leftridge. And that would be me, Mr. Unstoppable, here with you on another Tuesday night with another unstoppable story. Thank you guys for tuning in. So as you come on in, we want you to come on in, swipe and share, come on in, swipe and share. We will take a couple of minutes to make sure that the broadcast is getting out there, because you know, sometimes with the Unstoppable Story Show and live stream broadcasts, things don't always work the way technology wants them to work. And excuse me, I got the frog in my throat. We'll talk about that in just a second as we welcome Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl Manette, thanks for coming. Roz, thanks for coming. And Nana, thanks for coming. Dolores, thanks for coming. Thank you guys for tuning in. And we're also simulcasting this show over on our show page, Unstoppable Stories. So feel free to join us in your comments either way, whether you're watching us on the show page over at Unstoppable Stories, or if you're watching me on my direct page, we welcome you. And here's what we always like for you to do. We want you to be interactive with us. So as we welcome you into the show, this is what I want you to do. We want you to type the number 1 if you are watching us live, or type the number 2 if you're on the replay. Again, type the number 1 in the comments if you're watching us live, or number 2 if you are watching us on the replay. And then we will make sure that we will give you a shout out throughout this broadcast. And then that way we'll also be able to make sure we're looking back and forth to make sure we're getting any comments that you, or questions that you might be putting out there for the show guests today. So I was telling you, I got this frog in my throat, and you can probably hear it. I'm probably pretty raspy right now. Raspy is the word I like to say. Well, that's because I have been dealing with this sickness, this illness, almost ever since I last hung out with our guest tonight. So I'm automatically blaming it on our guest. She doesn't know that, but I'm automatically blaming it on her. So I have been fighting what's called sinusitis. And if anyone knows anything about sinusitis, it is a bacterial infection that occurs in the sinus area, usually with the change in the weather. And the one thing that has definitely happened here in the city of Chicago is the weather has changed. The Hawk decided to make a visit early this year, y'all, and he got your brother out there in the middle. The day started off 70 degrees. The day ended 33 degrees, and I was caught in the middle of it. And here you go. Raspy Unstoppable has made a visit to the Unstoppable Story Show. So, but hey, it's a raspy voice. Maybe that might help me out. You know, I can little voulez-vous changer, and something might come out of that. Might be a whole new show with the Raspy Unstoppable, Secrets in the Dark with Mr. Unstoppable. What y'all think about that? Okay, maybe not. That's a whole nother show, a whole nother network. But here, again, because I've been sick, I had to cancel last week's show. So if anyone was out there looking for the Unstoppable Story Show, I apologize in advance. But I said I would not cancel again. And you can definitely look forward to seeing the guest that we had prepared for last week. You'll be able to see him in November as he comes to bless us with a powerful topic of his own. So I appreciate you guys always following me. I always showing up for the Unstoppable Story Show. I know you could be anywhere else on the Tuesday night, but you, like I, believe in quality programming, and you believe in hearing and building up people with unstoppable stories who are willing to get their message out to the masses. So let's go ahead and jump right on into the show, because we have another unstoppable person with us this evening that is doing great things. And when we talk about unstoppable stories, we don't always talk about that the person themselves may have an unstoppable story. Sometimes the story that is unstoppable is what that person is doing in the lives of others. And that can definitely be said about our friend that we have on the show with us tonight, the lovely, the phenomenal author, speaker, CEO, and founder of this great organization called Jacksonville's Best Caregivers. She is blessing us tonight. And before I bring her on, I just love this woman, because this woman is one of those loyal followers that, I talk to you guys about, that are here each and every Tuesday night watching the Unstoppable Stories Show. And I know for a fact that this woman has her hand in like 5, 6, 10, 12 different pies, and she is busy, and she's got things going on. And I know if anybody would have an excuse not to be in front of their computer at 8 p.m. Eastern time every Tuesday night, she would. But she is a devoted follower. She always comments. She always gives me great takeaways from the show, and I just love her to death. But we had never met. We had never, ever met. But that changed about 6 weeks ago. I was in Kansas City for this event with the Black Belt Speakers Global, BBS. And this young lady walked up behind me and she said, "Mr. Unstoppable, we finally meet." And I turn around and I'm like, who that? And she's like, "It's Roz." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, it is Roz." Because y'all women, y'all be changing y'all hairstyles. And y'all know the Facebook picture that y'all got up there ain't always the picture that you see in person. So, but this vision of loveliness came up behind me. And you know what? I always say there is no such thing as happenstance. There's divine purpose in everything that happens, and that divine purpose comes from God. We were in the same place at the same time for different reasons, but it turned out to be a mutual beneficial reason for both of us. And Roz was there because she was being awarded the I Change Nations Awards. And you guys know I've talked about I Change Nations and Ambassador Dr. Clyde Rivers doing big things around the world, bringing peace to the nation around the world and helping world leaders build communities and helping everyday ordinary people just like myself and like Roz get exposure to the rest of the world for the great things that we are doing in our community. But that's not it. She didn't just get one award, y'all. I think she walked away with like 13 awards. They was calling her name so much that I was just, they at one point they was calling her name so much they just gave her the mic and just told her to bring the mic back up when we call your name again. That's how much. That's how much. No, I'm kidding. But she did receive some very prestigious awards, and I am so proud of her, and I learned something new about her that night, and we can just continue to learn great things about her. But her claim to fame is what she's doing to help caregivers across Jacksonville and across the world now with her Facebook Lives become better caregivers, and she speaks to the healthcare initiatives that are necessary for each and every one of us as we get older. Statistics are showing that we are aging in place now, and people don't want to necessarily go to nursing homes or be in hospitals. They still want to be able to live independently, and most of the time they depend on their family to be that bridge that allows them to still age in place and live out the remainder of their lives peacefully. So training for caregivers is at an all-time high, and it is very important. But the one thing I know
especially as we are moving into the holiday season, is that it's not only a tough time for those people who are living on their own, but it's a tough time for those people who are pressed with the assignment, and I say the assignment from God, to take care of loved ones when they can no longer take care of themselves. But who provides care for the caregiver? That's the question that we pose tonight. Who is providing the care for the caregiver? Who's helping the caregiver, the person who gives their all 5, 6, 7 days a week to take care of someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Who's there to take care of them, or who's there to encourage them to take care of themselves? Well, that's that topic, and a couple other topics are what we are going to talk about tonight as we bring in our guest for the evening, the phenomenal Roslyn, aka Roz Jones of Jacksonville's Best Caregivers. Hey, how are you? No problem. Hold on a second. I want to make sure we got you up there. There you go.
All
All
right.
right. So, Roz, let's just take a second now and you go ahead and you tell our audience just a little bit more about yourself.
Well, Terrence has done such a great introduction. I don't have much more to add other than I'm Roz Jones. I'm the CEO and owner of Jacksonville's Best Caregivers, where we provide 4 levels of specialized care to your loved one: sitter, homemaker and companion, home health aide, and certified nursing assistants. We also provide one-on-one coaching to those people who are currently caregivers, who will be caregivers, and maybe have been caregivers in the past but still want to continue doing caregiving service. We provide that. So, and our tagline is, when you can't do it all, give us a call.
I love it. I love it. I love it. When you can't do it all, give us a call. And that tagline probably came out of the fact that you were running into people who may have possibly, if I'm thinking correctly, been trying to do it all when it came to taking care of their loved ones. Is that correct?
That's correct. Oftentimes, as caregivers, when we are given an assignment, and even if it's not caregiving, we want to give 100%. We want to give our all. And even as a caregiver or whatever we do, you have to understand that there are limits, and you have to understand boundaries. And, you have to understand that sometimes you need help. Even as an entrepreneur, anybody, we cannot do everything by ourselves. We have to ask for help. And that's a big thing as a caregiver. We have to remember that we don't have a coat of armor on. We don't have a cape. We got to ask for help.
I love it. And, I think caregivers are unstoppable. I know that in my family, my aunt was a caregiver for my grandmother for a decade before she passed away. And just recently, my mom was a 24/7 caregiver for my sister while she was in the hospital, who went in the hospital 4 months ago and never came out. But my mom was by her side 24/7 throughout that whole process. So I just believe that caregivers have this unstoppable trait in them. But let me ask you, like I ask every one of my guests on the Unstoppable Stories Show, when you hear the word unstoppable as a caregiver yourself in the past and a person who works with caregivers on a daily basis, what does that word mean to you?
Unstoppable for a caregiver means that we have to be focused, and that we have to make sure that when we're focused, that we don't allow things to pull us, from either left or right, or take us off of our journey. We have to remain focused so that we can give quality care, so that we can think clearly, so that we are able to provide the type of care, not only that we're giving to someone else, but then that we also are unstoppable in being focused on ourselves. So that's what I think about when unstoppable is being focused.
So when it comes to being focused, and thank you, that is a great definition. I'm writing it down, adding that to the list of definitions that all the guests have given us about being unstoppable. But with that definition, being so focused on the task and so focused on the other person and being so focused on what needs to get done here, there, and everywhere, there leaves very little time for the caregiver to focus on themselves, right?
That's right. That's right.
So let me ask you this. Let's pull back a second, get some background, and then we'll move forward into some tips that our caregivers that are watching either live or in the replay will be able to take with them and put into action right now. And so, like I said, you guys remember that if you are watching this right now, if you're watching this live, go ahead and put that number 1 in the feed. And if you are watching us via the replay, we love you just the same. Go ahead and put that number 2 down there. And also feel free to show our guest some love. Show her some love, put some hearts out there, and feel free to post any questions or comments in the feed, and we will do our best to get those questions or comments onto the broadcast. But so as we talk to you, Rosalind, tell us, how did you get started with this whole caregiving industry in the first place?
It was an accident. I was already working for a very large healthcare company health provider, and I was in church, and one of the mothers from the church asked me to go to the hospital with her, and she was having a procedure for 2 days, and she didn't have any children. Her husband was dead. Her sister had stage 4 cancer and couldn't come to the hospital, so she asked me to go. Why me? I don't know. Out of all the people in the church, however, being obedient, I went. The doctor said, we're only going to have her in here for 2 days. We got to remove a small portion of her intestines because it's blocked. And I said, okay. So got in, and the surgery was supposed to be for an hour. Well, it went past the hour, and I said, well, maybe they're in recovery, going into 2 hours, and the doctor comes out. So, when the doctor comes out, he still has his, scrub cap on. Something is wrong. He says that, mother has had some technical difficulties. We're going to have emergency surgery. We need to get your permission. I'm like, wait a minute, stop, hold on. I don't have documentation. I don't have power of attorney.
Right. Yeah.
I don't have living will. I have nothing. I said, so whatever is the policy and procedure for the hospital, go ahead and do what you have to do. But I had nothing. So I was a caregiver. It went from her being in the hospital from 2 days to 2 weeks. So I had to take care of her for 2 weeks in the hospital, then went to rehab. And then after that, my life changed, and I decided to become a caregiver.
Wow.
Because that one person, that one situation.
Yeah. And isn't it something how our purpose can be defined by one person, one act, and one situation, just like yours. But so in her situation, there was no other family members throughout that 2-week process that could take the lead of or take over for what you were doing?
No, like I said, her sister had stage 4 cancer and was, very weak and couldn't come to the hospital. So there was really nobody else. So I felt great. I felt blessed and grateful that she thought enough of me to even ask, out of all the people in the church, ask for me to take care of her. And of course, I know it was now God assigned, and it was God showing me that I needed to take another journey other than what I had already planned and put on paper.
Okay, because you were already doing great things in your world before this happened, right?
Yes, sir. I was on the way up.
What was your background before this happened?
Oh, wow. I was, of course, working as a technical writer. And a technical writer for claims, what we would do is we would write all the information. So when the doctor submits your claim, he would get paid from the insurance company. I also used to work as an executive producer at TV stations across the South. I also was a teacher at LSU.
Okay.
And I used to work for radio and television and newspapers. So I've had a vast background.
Mm-hmm.
But never thought that I would be in
Doing
caregiving.
what you're doing, yeah, yeah, and that's the difference between when people are just existing and when they first start and when they start living. You know, we have no idea what we're going to end up doing. Very few people that I run into, the degree that's on their paper is the devotion that they're doing later in life. So,
That's true.
and that's just how God works. We're hanging out with Roz Jones. She is the founder of Jacksonville's Best Caregivers, and we're talking about self-care for the caregiver. Cheryl
Yeah.
Minette.
Yes.
She said you must schedule time for yourself. And
Yes.
a lot of people who are just checking in and watching, again, go ahead and put those comments in. And as we move along, feel free to ask any questions and go ahead and share it with somebody else. I'm sure you in your circle of influence probably know somebody who is a caregiver, or maybe the caregiver is you. This is your opportunity to relax for the next 40 minutes and get some good information that you can use going forward as we move into the holiday seasons. Because I understand how difficult it is during the holiday seasons to deal with the elderly, to deal with some of the circumstances or situations that they're dealing with in their own life, and not having a lot of people there for them. But in your situation, in your company, what do you see around the holidays for a lot of the caregivers and the people that they're caring for? How are they during the holidays?
During the holidays, this is really a bad time for those providing care as well as those receiving care. For those of us who provide care, a lot of times this is a season where there's a lot of death. A lot of people are dying. And the reason why that is happening is because a spouse, usually this is their first Christmas, their first Thanksgiving, their first really major holiday. And you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas is family. So now you're without your husband, you're without your wife, you're without your children, whoever has passed. This is usually a difficult time. And then for us as caregivers, we are losing, you know, not only a client, but sometimes a friend. And so a lot of times people think, oh, you know, once the person dies, we're okay. We mourn just like the family mourns. We take a hit just like the family. So this is a difficult time for both sides, for the person receiving care and also for the person giving care. So we have to take care of ourselves, as well as the family members have to take care of themselves through the death process.
And you know, you are definitely speaking to the choir, because again, it's I'm not going to make the show about me, but I'll just use it as reference as we move forward. Because again, my sister just passed, and it'll be 2 months now, and different family members are dealing with it different ways. But my mom, who they lived with each other, and my mom again was her caregiver, and my sister was my mom's caregiver. So now there's that emptiness, there's that loss, and we just celebrated what would have been her 55th birthday this past week. And now we go into what was her favorite holiday, Thanksgiving, and then of course Christmas, and then New Year's. So let's talk about some of those tips that we can help the caregivers as well as the family of caregivers to deal with this time and to take time to take care of themselves. You came up with 6 tips that you wanted to share with our audience. So let's just go through them, and let's just chop it up for a second, okay?
Okay. Well, I think the first one I had talked about was setting boundaries.
Absolutely.
Setting boundaries and having realistic expectations. When you decide to take on that position as a caregiver, you have to tell the person what you are able to do and what you are not able to do. And then the person receiving the care has to say, okay, but this is what I need. Now, if there is still a gap between expectation and need, then that's when you hire a service like mine, either a service or a private caregiver, to come in and to assist with that gap. And understand, as a caregiver, it's okay to say no. And it's okay to agree to disagree that you can't do it all. And I want people to understand that. And I want you to stop feeling guilty if you can't do all of the care. That's the biggest thing I want you to understand when you're setting the boundaries. You have to set boundaries for when you get up in the morning. I have to spend time with myself. Before I go to bed at night, I have to spend time with myself. During the day, you have to set time, daily time. And then also, too, you need time away from the whole situation. Once a month, once every quarter, take a staycation at a hotel locally, or go to another county or another city, another state. Take that time away.
So out of those two things, the setting the boundaries and the realistic expectations, in your experience, what do you seem is the hardest for the caregiver, whether it's a relative or whether it's a private caregiver through your service? What's the hardest thing for them to do? The setting the boundaries or creating the realistic expectations?
Setting the boundaries.
Why do you think that is?
Because it's hard to say no, particularly when children are taking care of parents, because there's that parent guilt. I want you to promise me, oh, you never put me in a nursing home. I want you to promise me this. If your father was living, I wouldn't be in a nursing home. If your sister or brother was living closer, I wouldn't have to go to, they would promise me that I wouldn't. But there could come a time when your care is so critical and so urgent to where your loved one does not have the right training to take care of you, and you need a nurse and you need someone at the hospital to watch you 24/7, and your loved ones, and let's be realistic, let's set those boundaries. I can't do it. I cannot do it because I don't know how to give injections. I don't know how to do, the suction or change the diaper or, whatever the case may be. I don't know how to do the feed tubing. So I'm sorry if that comes up. You have to set those boundaries. And if that comes up, I have to take you to the hospital so that your quality of life is and you're safe, in the hospital, your treatment is going well. So that's important.
So when should the caregiver have that conversation with the person that they're caring from? Should they do that from day one, or should they do that after they get comfortable with the schedule? When should those conversations be happening?
Before the person comes in the house, if possible. Before the person comes in, day one. I have had some situations in the last year where the mothers or fathers have decided to say, hey, I'm coming to live with you. And they said, oh, okay, how soon do you want to do it? They say now. So sometimes you don't even have time to prep, but you still got to have the conversation, whether it's via phone. I would say do it face to face. Don't do it by phone because, things can happen. You can lose communication on the phone, but face to face is better. Looking, eyeball to eyeball is definitely better.
And do you suggest that maybe there's a third person, a mediator in that conversation? Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Great information. So let's move on to the next step. And again, you guys, you're hanging out on the Unstoppable Stories Show with Terrence Leftridge and our special guest tonight, Roz Jones, my great friend, friend to the Unstoppable Stories Show. And she is also doing great things in Jacksonville with Jacksonville's best caregivers. And so you said the second tip, and this tip goes for a lot of things, not just for caregivers. It goes for the two of us on this broadcast right now, and that's eat a well-balanced meal. But why is that especially important for caregivers?
That is so important for caregivers because a lot of times when we are taking care of someone else, we sacrifice us. We sacrifice eating. We sacrifice eating well. We sacrifice hydration. We sacrifice, not eating at all. And then a lot of times, because we become caregivers, we eat a lot of junk food or we get off a schedule. So a well-balanced meal is a meal, you try to have it at the same time every day as much as possible. And then, you try to plan it. To make sure that you have your fruits, your vegetables, your protein, your probiotics, all of that. but we forget. And what happens is when you forget to eat well, it impacts you. There's stress, weight gain. A lot of things could happen when you don't have a well-balanced diet. Your digestive system is impacted. So many things are impacted when you don't eat a well-balanced diet. And when you don't eat well, sometimes you're weak and you're tired and you're stressed. So you can't be a good caregiver if you're sick.
That definitely makes sense. And again, and it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, who's advocating for the caregiver. We're focusing all our time on making sure that the person that we're taking care of is getting a balanced meal. So we're doing the four corners of the plate for our person we're taking care of, making sure that they got the fruits and the vegetables and the bread and the carbohydrates in the right proportion. But then while we're fixing the food for the person we're caring for, we're nibbling on the McDonald's because that's the only thing we had a chance to get on the way over. So it's so important that happens, because if you don't take care of yourself, then who's going to be there to take care of the person you were taking care of? Is that so true?
That is so true. And then also too, as you take care of someone who is either sick or older, remember that their appetite is going to be smaller. They're not going to eat the large portions like they used to. You expect them to eat like it's the Last Supper, and they can't eat like that anymore. They can only eat small portions. And the rule of thumb that we were taught in school is, say for instance, if your weight is 125 pounds, you would add a 0 to that. You would make sure that they get 1,250 calories a day. As long as they're getting their calories, then their body, they'll be able to function, their and get hydration, bowels will be able to work, they'll be able to have great outcomes. Mm-hmm. But when they don't get that nutrition, then that's when, they have problems, urinary tract infections, different things can set in when you, don't, take care of yourself, with the food, anything could happen.
Absolutely. Rochelle Dotson Matheny, she says, so true. And be honest with the patient and with yourself. Thanks, Rochelle, for watching. And, Rochelle, she is part of Warriors Talk Inc. here in Chicago. And they are a nonprofit organization that brings action to awareness in the journey of cancer patients and survivors. And so that's a specific segment where I'm sure some of your caregivers also are caregivers to people in that population. And do you see any of the tips that we're going to talk about today, do you see them having to be more specific to one population of your caregiving population, or do you see it's pretty much the same thing across the board when we talk about caregivers?
It's across the board. It is across the board, because we can get bad eating habits quickly, particularly when we're stressed, particularly when we're depressed, when we have anxiety, when we're worried. We binge eat, and so we forget about 4 meals a day, 2 snacks, and drink, 3 8-ounce bottles of water. We forget about that. And, we get a big bag of potato chips, or we order a 8-slice pizza. And we
Yeah.
And so it's normal. But what happens is, as a caregiver, because you have this added accountability that you have not been taught how to do, because it's your mother. It's different when you're taking care of your children or taking care of your husband, but when you're taking care of your mom and dad, they are still in the mindset, which they are, I'm the mama and the daddy. You don't tell me what to do. You don't tell me when to eat, go to bed, what to drink. But you're not telling them that to treat them like a child. You're telling them that because you want them to have a good quality of life. And part of that is making sure that they eat well and have a variety of the proteins, the meats, the breads, the everything.
Yes, yes. And basically we're talking about practice what you preach. If you're preaching that same thing to the person that you're taking care of, make sure you're practicing it in your own life. And tip number 3 really piggybacks upon tip number 2, and that's exercise. And I just saw my doctor today, and my doctor, she was that said that word too many times to me. But I'm doing a lot, doing better than I thought of. And if Roz hadn't got me sick 2 weeks ago when we were together, then I wouldn't be having this problem that I'm having right now. And so
You don't say that.
All right. But talk about why is exercise important for the caregiver who's taking care of their loved ones.
The exercise is important for the caregiver because it stimulates your appetite. It helps with the digestive system. It reduces stress. It lowers your blood pressure. I mean, exercise is good for a whole lot of things. I started walking again. I'm walking between 2 to 3 miles 3 times a week. And, I'm already, just in a short time, I know that when I exercise, I feel better. I think better. I focus. I'm able to accomplish more. When you don't exercise, then it impacts your bowels. It impacts your urine. It impacts your digestive system. It impacts a lot when you don't. And then also, too, for the person that you're taking care of, lack of exercise, what happens is they start to lose body mass. Sometimes you see the arms all crinkly, and that's because they're not doing anything, they're not using. Or what'll happen is sometimes the limbs will begin to draw up because they're sedentary all the time. But then that also happens to us. Sometimes we sit a lot because of online. We need to get up every hour, every 2 hours, and either walk, if we're working at home, walk around the block. If we're, with a patient, I try to help my patients every 2 hours. We have what's called the little pedal machines, and they pedal their feet, so they can, help with their digestive. Or we get up and walk, or they use the hand. I thought I had my little hand things here, but they use the little hand exercise weights, to help with the arms so that they can push up out of the chair. They can push out of the wheelchair. They can push off of the toilet. They can, still help themselves in and out of the shower. So all of this exercise is important. Exercise is very, very important.
So now, what do you say? Because I worked in a senior living apartment for 3 years as the manager, and so we had a lot of CNAs, a lot of homemakers coming in and out. And when we talk about exercise and the caregivers, a lot of them would say, "Well, I get enough workout just taking care of this person, just taking care of that person." Is that a myth, or is that really in fact true that the caregiver can get enough exercise just taking care of the other person?
Sometimes you do get exercise, but it's not enough, because whatever you're doing is only for a very, very short period of time, sometimes less than 10 or 15 minutes. In order to get enough impact from the exercise, you should do it for 30 minutes. If you're not doing it for 30 minutes, unless you're bathing a person, which is going to give you a lot of exercise, unless you're cleaning the house for 30 minutes, but you shouldn't be cleaning that long. Under most circumstances, you shouldn't have to clean too long, but that is not enough. It's not enough, particularly if all you're doing is helping them get dressed, or if you're cooking a meal. Is not enough, because it's not a consistent period of time. You need 30 minutes at least to make an impact.
I love it. I love it. Hanging out with Roz Jones here on the Unstoppable Story Show, talking about 6 tips for the caregiver's self-care. We are really looking to help the caregiver, especially during this holiday time, take time for themselves so they'll continue to be there for the loved ones that they're taking care of. And a lot of time we spend so much time with taking care of our loved one, that one of the things that we don't spend a lot of time with ourselves is actually getting some sleep. And so you recommend that they sleep at least 6 to 8 hours. Talk a little bit more about that.
This is so important. We need to get at least 6 to 8 hours. I'm guilty. I don't do this all the time. However, this is an alternative to help you get more sleep. For me, when the patients take a nap, I try to get my little nap in too. You know,
what? No, you sleeping on the job, Roz? Oh my God! Thank God you the owner. No,
but you know,
I didn't hear that. Roz didn't say sleep on the job. She
I didn't say sleep on the job, but I'm just saying as a family caregiver, when you take care of your family.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Let me clean it up a little bit. But when your when your loved one is taking a nap, you take a nap. You'll be surprised that 20 or 30 minutes, that hour, what it can do to help your body reset. You got to get your rest, because let me tell you something, and I am the poster child for not sleeping. And tip number 4, you should see my face on there for insomnia because of the way I work. But you have to allow your body to come to a complete rest, and so that the chemicals and everything in there can reset, and so that the toxins can be pushed out. If you're going all the time, the body doesn't have a chance to recover. Right. Even when a football player gets injured or anybody is injured, they have to have time to recover before they can come back out and serve. You can't serve when you're injured. You can't help anybody when you're injured. And so it's good for, the person you're taking care of to get to sleep. And if you're at home and you are taking care of your loved one at home, when they lay down, you lay down.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the very first tip where we talked about setting boundaries and realistic expectations. That could be part of the daily routine. That could be part of the expectations for the week. Mom, dad, aunt, whoever it is that you're taking care of. Well, you know what? You usually take your nap at such and such time. I'm going to as well. So now we're not going to schedule me to do anything. We're not going to schedule me to go anywhere. We're all just going to shut down and recharge for that time, and then put that into the daily routine. And I know that's really key, especially when you talk about patients with dementia or who are going through Alzheimer's. It's really important for them to have structure and consistency.
Regiment, yes.
Regiment.
You have a regiment. And let me tell you something, regiment is so important because it helps the quality of life. They age in place. They feel more independent when they're on a routine. You have to realize that if you keep them on a routine, then that gives them something to look forward to. I know I'm going to eat at 10. I know I'm going to go for a walk. I know I'm going to take a nap. And so, they have something to look forward to every day. When they don't have a routine, what happens is they wander. Yeah. If you're trying to work at home, they're going to come and sit in right in your life. What are you doing? And you're trying to do a live shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got you. They want to be part of your broadcast. I got you. I understand. That's good. So definitely, we can combine tip number 1 and tip number 4 together. Mm-hmm. Get that if you want to ensure that you're getting your sleep, and with the busy lives that most people live, especially caregivers, it's not always possible to get maybe the consistent 6 to 8 hours. But if you're making sure you're getting that 6 to 8 hours throughout the course of the day, getting a good rest and then getting some power naps in between, things like that, that is just as good. And again, it helps you stay recharged so that you can be charged to work for the person that you love. So definitely a great tip. Moving right along into tip number 5. Tip number 5, I like this tip because as caregivers, and especially as family caregivers, the last thing we want to do is disrespect our loved ones. The last thing we want to do is upset our loved ones. So as caregivers and as family caregivers, I'm just going to say it. It's my show. We take a lot of ish from the people that we care for, so that they can continue to thrive and live in place. But you say it's important for the self-care of the caregiver to not ignore their emotions. Talk a little bit more about that.
If you get frustrated, if you are tired, if you are sad, if you want to cry, if you want to scream, do it. Nothing is wrong with that. You are not weak because you feel overwhelmed. You are not weak because you may not know what to do. We don't expect you to be perfect. We appreciate that you try. I'm not perfect. I'm going to tell you a quick funny, and then we're going to go back to the emotion part. I was taking care of one of my clients, and babe turned everything and got her straight and all that and put her in the chair. And she said, baby, come here. And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, you forgot to put on my panties. Oh my God, the life of a caregiver, right?
Yes. I'm not wearing any panties.
I don't want any panties. So emotions are not always sad. Emotions sometimes, we laugh about these things. And, and so now when I give her a shower, she said, don't forget my panties. So it's a joke.
Right.
But, it's things happen. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm trying to get you to understand with your emotions. Things happen. You don't get mad on purpose. Sometimes things could trigger it because you're tired, or you haven't eaten, or you haven't gotten your sleep, or you haven't set your boundaries. This is sometimes when your emotions flare up, is because of some other things you may not have done. You may be tired, exhausted, overworked, anxiety. There's a lot of things that could be happening, but find you a good person who you can talk to, who won't run out and tell all your business.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
and in our community, I don't know, I can't speak for others, but I know I used to be told, whatever goes on this house stays in this house.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we got to go outside of the house to get help. Don't be embarrassed to go to your EAP. Don't be embarrassed to go to your chaplain. Don't be embarrassed to go and ask for help. And if you want someone just to listen, and don't give anybody, tell them, say, I just need someone to listen.
Let me vent. Yeah, I got you. Because it's important. Sometimes, like we're all human, and we all have that ability to be that Coke bottle that gets shaken before the cap comes off.
That's it.
If we don't learn how to channel our emotions before we get into the spot where we have to put our caregiver hat on, then more than likely those emotions are going to spill over, and they're going to have a negative effect on the person that we're caring for and on our ability to care for that person. So just like going to a job, you check yourself at the door. Just like when you come home, you check yourself when you walk through the door. You got to make sure that you're also, and you say ignore your emotions, but I'm going to say don't forget to be in constant checking of your emotions. Be aware of what your emotions are, because it's empowering. It's great to be in control. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to tell people you're upset. It's okay to tell the person that you're caring for that you're having a bad day. Ma, I'm having a bad day. Slow down. Give me a second. Let me breathe. Can you eat one of those gummy bears over there? Whatever it takes to get your emotions in check, so that you can continue to have that self-care, so that you can continue to care for your caregivers.
I also want people to know too, if you are taking care of someone and you're in the home with them, it's okay to close the door and say, hey, I'm going in the bedroom. I need about 10 minutes. When you come home from work, before I take care of you and take care of the house, I need some time to decompress. Or if you're in the house all the time, set times where you close the door. Set times when you walk away or go for a walk. Set those parameters up. I told a friend of mine that I'm coaching now, just like at the hotel, they have the do not disturb sign. You hang one of those on your door and say, this is my time. I lost the audio.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Okay.
So probably the first thing was the first thing we should have talked about, and that is take time for self. Here's the one thing I know, and I say this all the time, no matter whether I'm talking to somebody at work, whether I'm talking to someone in my family, whether I'm talking to a stranger who's going through something. If you don't take time for yourself, the job ain't gonna stop. They're just gonna put somebody else in your chair. Ooh. The world ain't gonna stop. It's gonna keep on revolving. Just
yes, some more
people are gonna take up the air that was there for you. But if you don't take care of yourself, ultimately nobody else will.
No, they won't.
You gotta take that time for yourself. So what suggestions do you have for, we just hit on it. One of them is close your door and put the do not disturb sign on. What's some other ideals that you would give to caregivers, especially during the holidays, to take time for themselves?
To take time for yourself, long bubble baths. But the take time for yourself is every day. The big thing now is self-care Saturday. But self-care is every day. Wake up and set the tone for your day. If you meditate, if you pray, if you read a book, if you light candles, if you do the ting ting meditation thing, whatever you do.
Namaste. You got to do the downward dog and the rolling mat, whatever it takes, take it, right?
Whatever it takes, whatever you got to do. Look, whatever helps you go forward for the day, that's what you need to do. And sometimes we forget to do that. I'm guilty. I did a live about a week ago, and I told people, I said, I was in a funky place. And I think I shared that with you, Terrence. I said, I had just I was in this funk. And we get in those things. But I didn't stay in the valley. Mm-hmm. I didn't stay in the valley. I came out of the valley, and now I'm going up the mountain. But those things, you have to have people to talk to. Terrence, I had talked to him when I saw him. And I had a few people in my group, in my immediate group. When you take time for yourself, also, too, I want to make sure that you have a good care team and a support team when you're a caregiver. Make sure you have the right people around you, because everybody is not going to understand what you are going through. So taking time for yourself, make time in the morning, make time sometime in the middle of the day, and before you go to bed. But when you come home from work, I got to make time for myself before I cook for Pookie and them and feed the dog. And I got to just give me 30 minutes and just let me sit. And sometimes when you are quiet and you are still and you allow your body to come to a halt, it's resetting.
Yes. It's a wonderful thing. Definitely. All right. So you have those 6 tips, you guys. So definitely these are what you need, especially for our caregivers, especially during this time, because, things are about to get hectic. You're planning for the holidays, people coming in that don't normally come in throughout the course of the year. There may be other people that want to come and see the loved one that you're taking care of, and it's going to throw some things into flux. But if you are prepared, if you've got that self-care, if you got these 6 tips under your belt, and you are not just looking at them, but you're implementing them, then these holiday seasons are not going to be stressful for you, and they're definitely not going to be stressful for your loved one. But hey, if you didn't get all the information that's going on that we talked about here on the show, you've got another opportunity to get this information, because my girl Roz is doing a telesummit this weekend, this Sunday. So it's called the Healthcare Alternatives Telesummit. And it's on November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. So why don't you tell them a little bit about that, Roz?
The purpose of this telesummit is to talk a little bit about what we talked today, about how to take care of yourself. Also, too, to talk about it's open enrollment right now for Medicare, which is from October the 15th through December the 7th. There are so many great things that are coming out. And the reason why there are so many opportunities coming out now through the insurance companies is because people are living longer. And so to help them to reduce the opportunity for them to keep coming back for the doctor, they are implementing things like wellness packages where you can go and join a fitness club, or wellness packages so far as if you eat right. And also too, they're giving greater discounts for prescription drugs, for co-pays. And in some regions, you may not even have to pay a copay. And then also too, they're giving even greater benefits for those who are on TRICARE and who are veterans. So don't take this time for granted and say, oh, my coverage is going to be the same. It's not going to be the same. And then also too, we wanted to talk to you about the caregivers. What are some of the things that are going to open up in January? Because we have a great influx of people who are going to need care, which are baby boomers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have 117 million people who are going to need care. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you really ready to take care of someone? So we want to kind of equip you and give you some information, some tips, some checklists, some books. So I have great industry experts that are coming on who are going to help you, go through this. And also too, Medicare has this, well, I'm not even going to tell the secret. You got to sign up at bit.ly.
Look at you.
I just had to text myself. Yes. So you can sign up at bit.ly HC Alternatives. bit.ly/HC Alternatives. And we are going to tell you about some of the great things that's going to happen with Medicare, what's going to happen so far as long-term care, but you have got to sign up for it. They're not going to give it to you. And we have the bad habit of saying, oh, I'm just going to let it roll over, and you'll be rolling over paying more money. Trust and believe.
So yes, to go to the website. And here's the beautiful thing about this. With the TeleSummit, you don't even have to leave the comfort of your own room. All you have to do is go get more information. Go over to bit.ly/HC Alternatives. bit.ly/HC Alternatives. You see the information up on the screen right now, and have your face in the place on Sunday, this coming Sunday, November 3rd at 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, correct?
Correct, 6:30 Eastern time. But you have to sign up in order to be able to get all the free gifts from the guests. So if you don't sign up here, they may give you a couple of things, but then on the back side, once those who have signed up, we're going to give you a free copy of the TeleSummit. And then also too, you're going to get all these gifts. The TeleSummit will only be up for, I think, 24 to 48 hours, and then we'll pull it down. And only those who signed up will, membership has its benefits. So only those people who signed up will be able to get the benefits.
Well, definitely a great event. So you guys, and where else can you get such great information on a Sunday night? So definitely go sign up and be a part of my girl Roz's TeleSummit this coming Sunday, the Healthcare Alternatives TeleSummit, bit.ly/HC Alternatives. Go ahead, sign up, give them your email address, and then they'll give you more information on how you can link up to that event this coming Sunday. But wait, that's not all that little Roz has going on in her life in the month of November. Roz ain't playing, y'all. Roz is coming out and she is swinging with her initiatives to help you guys be better going out of 2019 into 2020. And she has connected with this phenomenal woman that I just happen to know from here and there and everywhere. And she fully believes that playtime is over, and she talks about it each and every time she hits the stage. And now she has teamed up with the phenomenal Roz Jones to come up with this new book that you guys have coming out, right?
Right. It's called Speak My Truth, and it's an anthology. It's other authors in the book as well. And it's going to launch on Friday. So we're going to actually have the book launch. SpeakerCon, which is created by Cheryl Wood, is an opportunity for speakers to come together. And along with being in the book, I'm also a virtual speaker on Friday. So I have truly been blessed. I have been blessed to be on some podcasts this month as well, here in the States, as well as recently just in Scotland. So I'm excited that people are understanding the importance of caregiving, and we have to get the information out there.
I love it. There is the beautiful Rosalind Jones, co-author, along with Cheryl Wood, in the beautiful. Look at that book. That book is just bold.
It's hot.
My truth, and it is coming out in November, so you definitely have to keep in contact with Roz so she can give you more information on how you can get your personalized signed copy of that book. Roz, I am so proud of you. I mean, I said it in the beginning, not only are you here most every Tuesday night for this show, but you are doing great things Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, all the rest of the week. And it's not just for your glory, but it's to the glory of God and to the people that he has created for you to shepherd over and to take care of. So I definitely want to extend my heartfelt thanks for everything that you do, not only for the Unstoppable Story Show, but what you do for people in Jacksonville, what you do for people in Florida, and what you're doing for people now across the world by sharing this information and speaking your truth. I just want you to know that you, Rosalind, have the ability to make everybody the best caregivers in the world. And because of that, that makes you unstoppable. Any final words?
I just want people to understand that as a caregiver, when you're taking care of someone, you are their voice when they don't have a voice. Who is going to speak for them when they can't speak for themselves? And that's what I want you to be able to do. I want to equip you. I want to empower you. I want to give you the information that you're going to need to be an effective, successful caregiver. But make sure that you watch our summit, bit.ly/HC Alternatives, Healthcare Alternatives, HC Alternatives, on Sunday at 6:30. And I want to thank Terrence and the Unstoppable community for allowing me to come in and to give you this information. If you ever need me, my personal Facebook page is Roz Jones, ROZ Jones. And of course, the business is called Jacksonville's Best Caregivers. Once again, I'm the CEO and owner of Jacksonville's Best Caregivers. When you can't do it all, give us a call.
Look at her. She is so professional. I just can't stand it. doing it real big. I thank you so much, Roz, for coming on to the show this evening and blessing us with the great things that you're doing with your organization and the great advice that you're giving to our caregivers. And again, I'm going to say happy holidays to you in advance. You're going to have a phenomenal November, and I know you're just going to knock the rest of 2019 out of the park. I'm going to put you back down into the lobby, but don't hang up. And if you could just please put your information in the comments so on how you want them to reach out to you more directly in case they want to have a more intimate conversation with you, or in case they want to have a coaching session with you about how to become a better caregiver. We would definitely appreciate that. Would you do that for us?
Yes, sir. I sure will.
All right. Thank you so much. And you have an unstoppable week, Rosalind. All right.
I will.
All right, you guys, that is the phenomenal Rosalind Jones of Jacksonville's Best Caregivers. And hopefully you got these tips. If not, go back and listen to the replay. But it is so important for you to recognize, especially as we go into the holiday season where we tend to neglect ourselves because we're doing for others, where we tend to not take the time out to really reflect on ourselves and what we've gone through in the course of this year. Take time to take some self-care so that you'll be better prepared to care for the people that need you to care for them. And please, if you don't do anything else, take some time for yourself, because you have the ability to take care of yourself. And if you take care of yourself, then there's nobody else out there that's going to be able to stop you. One more reminder, you guys, I am looking for people. I'm looking for authors. I'm looking for people who recognize that no matter what stage you are in your life, no matter what age you are in your life, no matter what you've been gone through in your life up to this point, that it is never too late for you to do something different. Yes, indeed. We are talking about looking for authors who are willing to be interviewed for the next chapter, the next volume of the You Are Unstoppable book series called It's Never Too Late. I want to talk to you. If you've got an unstoppable story of something that you have decided, oh, you once thought it was too late for you to do, but now, in fact, you are doing it. Statistics say that most business owners don't become business owners till late into their 40s. I know people who have gotten married for the first time after the age of 50. I know people, men and women in their 70s and their 80s, that are national bodybuilders. So I know no matter what it is that you think it might be too late for you to do, it's never too late. And we want to showcase you. We want to share your story so that we can let other people know that you may think it's too late, but in fact, when you are an unstoppable person, you know that it's never too late. So if that's you, I want you to reach out to me here at the Unstoppable Stories Show, or you can email me at info@unstoppablecoaching.com and just put in the subject line, never too late. So let me put that up there. I want to make sure that you guys get that information. It's the same information as if you want to be a guest on the Unstoppable Stories Show. Just simply email me at info@unstoppablecoaching.com. And then who knows, you too may be the next guest on the Unstoppable Stories Show. But if you are also interested in being interviewed to be a contributing author in the next book of the You Are Unstoppable book series, It's Never Too Late, then you also can send me an email to info@unstoppablecoaching.com, and somebody from our team will get in contact with you to get you started on the roll to being a contributing author in the next You Are Unstoppable book series. All right, you guys, that is a wrap for the raspy version of the Unstoppable Story Show. I hope you guys, please forgive me. I hope you guys were able to deal with my voice. I promise I'll be better next week. But hey, some things may sideline you, but they don't have to stop you. And that's the whole premise of the Unstoppable Story Show. Talking to ordinary people with unstoppable stories so that you know that if they can do it, then you can do it too. Tune into our show next week. And as always, wherever you are in the world today, don't just make it a great day. You know what I say. Make it an unstoppable day. Take care.